What's up, bro? It's your boy Mike Muse for the conversation of the Mike Muse Show. This is a special conversation for me personally. I love this human being. This human being has been a force to me and to so many other people. And I'm just so glad that he finally wrote this book, Stay Sane in an Insane World: How to Control the Controllables and Thrive. This human being is dynamic. He is a force. He is kind. He is fun. He is smart. He is gracious. And he is someone that we have all just looked up to and admire. This gentleman goes by the name of Greg Harden, and he goes blue. University of Michigan. What's up, Greg?
Well, hello, and I want everyone to know for the record that I learned everything I know from Mike Muse.
Audience, don't believe that at all. But with that being said, Greg, I want to give you some more of your flowers, man. Like I was one of those students, and even to this day, I don't. It takes a lot for me to sit and listen to like speakers or presenters or keynote individuals. But with you, I always showed up to whatever you were presenting, whatever you were talking about, from a small group to a large ballroom filled with thousands of people. You have always held and kept my attention, and I always gained a nugget from you because you made everything so palatable. And Greg, my audience knows I don't book authors on the Mike Muse Show, like at all. I wouldn't say at all, but I truly don't, because I don't trust the motive a lot of times of people who are writing books. But audience, before I even read even one page of this book, I just knew that I had to have him on my show just to unpack it, because when G Harden speak, that's what we all affectionately call them. You listen and you learn, and it is so real. So just thank you, Greg, for being so special and being and always giving your gifts to society.
Well, Mike, let's just be real serious. You have always been one of my favorite individuals to work with. You've always been consistent in your respect and your commitment to making sure that you learned as much as you could. You were coachable. And that's one of the most important pieces that you get out of the book that I've written, because you'll have a lot of people talking about high performance individuals like Tom Brady and Michael Phelps and Desmond Howard, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll ask me, what's the difference between peak performers and everyone else? And I say simply that they were hungrier than most, but they were also humble. Imagine hungry and humble. That's coachable. And I sincerely mean that you were one of the most coachable cats. At Mike Muse would, I'd sit with Mike, and Mike would ask me more questions than any human being I had ever met in my life. So what he's doing today is totally consistent with who he was, and his sincerity and his diligence and his ability to ask the right question was crucial to his learning. So I really do admire you and respect you, and I really am proud of what you've done and what you're doing.
I just can't thank you. I can't thank you enough for that, Greg. The feeling is obviously mutual. I just want to get to it because you have trained over. I want to give, I'm an engineer, audience, and G Hart knows this. I want to give some data points really quickly. He mentioned Michael Phelps, who he's coached. He's mentioned Tom Brady, who he's coached beyond college all the way into after Super Bowls. And he mentioned Desmond Howard, getting Desmond Howard to get that Heisman Trophy. But over the 30 years, he has coached over 50 NFL first round draft picks, 120 Olympians from 20 plus countries. And so I just wanted to just give that data point with that. Greg, I talk a lot about the pressure, right? I always talk about myself. And I think we're in a society now where a lot of us feel, especially high performing individuals who are listening, we feel that every time we get to onto the plate, we're expected to hit a grand slam, right? We don't get that luxury of hitting a single to first base. Like we don't get that luxury of getting a home run, right? Like that's just not good enough for some people, right? And so how do you like sit with individuals, and or how should people who are high performing, who feel that pressure, what do you say to those individuals in order to keep them going to the plate?
Well, it's important that they learn to a simple formula, and that I love perfectionists, and we're talking about a lot of perfectionists. And what I teach anyone that'll listen to me, it's perfectly okay not to be perfect. It's crucial that you capture this idea. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue perfection, but the pursuit of perfection is fun. And if you begin to understand that you're playing a game, if we're talking about athletes, and if you're not having fun, something's not right. But if you think you're going to hit 1,000 in baseball, if you don't understand it, if you are at 30%, you're a god.
Yeah.
If you've got to be able to understand your own game, your own mission. And you've got to be able to understand if I'm in sales, if I'm hitting 25%, I'm that guy, I'm that gal, I'm that person who's doing it extremely well. But you've got to be comfortable with failure. If you're afraid to fail, you're afraid to succeed. And that's in your book. Think about it. You've got to be so comfortable in the skin you're in that when it's not going well, how you feel about yourself is not going to change. I want you to be mad. I want you to be angry and frustrated when you lose. But how you feel about you, that ain't changing. Self-love and
Yeah.
self-acceptance. Come on.
Alphabet, which I love, they always kind of had this theory about, they would celebrate their engineers who failed. And the reason why they did is really what you're saying, is because they were thinking that high, that they were trying to change that much of the world, that they came up short, but they celebrated in order to keep that innovation going. Is that something that you are alluding to and discussing right now about embracing that failure?
Ask Post-it notes. One of the greatest failures of all time. Man, how much money did you make off of Post-it notes, which was not the mission? It had nothing to do with Post-it notes. I wasn't trying to create Post-it notes, but it failed, and we turned it into multi-million-dollar industry.
Yeah.
So learning how to be, go ahead.
No, go. Keep going.
No, learning how to be comfortable with the fact that sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's not going to work. Again, how I feel about me, though, will not be altered and changed. I'm going to love myself, flaws and all.
So when I want to unpack that just a little bit, because is it about loving yourself first, and then after loving it? Well, obviously you have to love yourself first, but is it making sure you still love the things that you enjoy doing?
Well, if I don't love myself and I'm loving money and power and influence and I'm not happy, we all know somebody who has everything that we think anyone would want, right? But we've also seen those people hurt themselves. Sometimes take themselves out because the inside was not whole. It was not, they didn't love themselves. And so it's crucial that we begin to understand that and a lot of people are not going to start off loving themselves. They may have to be trained, and they may have to surrender the ego and allow themselves to be coached, counseled, use consultants. I teach people how to use counselors. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Imagine being the CEO of Google. Make a few dollars, right?
Yeah.
And so let's say you made that kind of money. Would you use consultants? Absolutely. Why would you? If you're making $8 million a year, $20 million a year, why do you need a consultant? Because I can't see everything. So when I'm trying to get people, especially high performance individuals and dynamic individuals and people who've been trained not to ask for help, how to get them to use counseling, I tell them, see counselors as consultants. Feel free to hire them. And if you don't like them, fire them and get another one. But keep looking, because some things I can't see in me that I may need to have somebody outside look and say, I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm seeing how you're saying it. And boom, 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 boom. And ask me questions. So sometimes you've got to be willing to ask for help, because I can't just transform myself sometimes without getting input from somebody else.
Yeah. Well, Greg, I want to keep going down that journey about getting input and asking for the help, because the reason why I like using examples of high performing people and expecting the grand slam, you know, when you think, I mean, there's certain people when they walk into a room, they're expected to say something great. They're expected to hit the sales numbers out the park. They're expected to create the most innovative product, right? They're expected when they become a senior vice president, right? They're expected, you know, to lead their company into this incredible positioning, right? Just like Tom Brady's expected to win the Super Bowl. I mean, before the preseason begins, right? The first time he gets the ball, he's expected to take the team to the Super Bowl. Michael Phelps, when he gets in the pool, he's expected to get that gold medal. That's a lot of pressure for individuals who are expected, you know, to be great. I'm just wondering, obviously, it's not an easy one-word answer, but like, how do you, you know, talk to that person, right? In terms of how should we be retraining our mind, right? Like to get up, right? To get into the pool, right? To go back on that field, knowing the expectation is so high, because that's why a lot of us are in therapy right now.
Well, let's be real clear. The greatest enemy any of us will ever face is fear and self-doubt. Fear and self-doubt is the enemy. And if the enemy within can't harm you, nothing can. If I can train you to believe in yourself without question or pause, if I can train you to be confident in the skin you're in and give everything you've got, if I can train you to give 100% of the time at everything you're doing, even when you come up short, your opponent is saying, I never want to see Mike Muse again unless he's going to be on our team. That's the guy, that's the gal, that's the person I want you to be. So strong, so potent, and so consistent that no one wants to see you coming. And if
is that why you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that why you talk about, you know, train yourself for a fast recovery? Is this?
Ooh, be careful now. You just opened up the door. There are 3 levels of fitness, Mike Muse. Yeah. Everyone thinks they know about physical fitness, and even if you don't, you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that was in shape, right? So we have seen the physically fit, even if it's not us. So, but if there's 3 levels of fitness, what are you talking about? Physical fitness, mental fitness, and spiritual fitness. You've got to consider developing, training yourself in those 3 dimensions. Now, when you're talking about, well, I'm from another planet. I don't know anything about this physical fitness crap you're talking about. Explain it to me. Well, you're going to tell them about, well, it means being strong. It means having stamina and endurance. It means being flexible. It means having cardiovascular fitness. It means being able to, and if you don't say the word recovery, you don't understand fitness. Think about it. Your recovery time is shorter than everybody else's. We can go out and run a 100-yard dash. We could go out right now. You got a guy in here named Russ. We've got Mike Muse. We got Greg Harden. We're going to go out in the parking lot and we're going to run a 100-yard dash. And I tell you, and I try to sell you, Mike Muse may recover in a minute and a half. Russ may recover in 3 minutes. I'm going to recover in 3 or 4 months. I mean, you understand? Yeah. Your recovery time tells me how fit you are. And what are we talking about when we talk about mental fitness? Think about it. I already gave you the answer. In life, you're going to be challenged. You're going to have trials and tribulations no matter where you are or who you are. How fast you can recover from the chaos in your life, from the disappointment, from the loss, from the tragedies in your life. How fast are you going to recover? And how will you be able to shape it so that you don't just go through it, but grow through it. That's what we're talking about in the book.
I love that, because even just to kind of use a sports term that's is a negative part, it's steroids, right? But that's why a lot of individuals do take steroids, amongst other things, because it helps with the recovery process for them to get back up to do it. So that's really, audience, why these performers do these steroids, for the act of recovery. So they can keep training faster and get back out there on the field like quicker with that. So I love, people don't talk about this, Greg. This is why I think you're a genius, right? Because you talk about things that just doesn't, when you hear, it's like, oh my God, that makes so much sense, right?
Okay,
but how?
Go.
No, go.
We didn't want to forget the third level of fitness, spiritual fitness. Now, you don't have to believe what I believe. You ain't got to worship the God I worship, but you better believe in something other than yourself. Because there are going to be times when your body and your mind are broke down, worn out, and ain't got nothing left. And you're going to have to tap into your own spirit. You're going to have to tap into something deeper. And so when you practice, train, and rehearse being mentally, physically, and spiritually fit, if you cheat in one, the other two cannot be fully developed. So you want to have that broad sense of who I am. I'm a physical being. I'm mental. And there's something that I can't even explain that's part of being human. And how fast I recover sometimes is going to require my faith, my confidence, my beliefs. And I have evidence that it works. So that's what we teach anyone. And that's what we teach anyone who's got the pressure, to love the pressure, to stop being afraid of being afraid and being overwhelmed by fear and self-doubt. Stop being overwhelmed by the fact that fear shows up. Okay. And I know you got 3 million questions, but I got to get this in. You ready?
No, I love it where we are. Yeah. I actually have no questions written, Greg, by the way. Yes.
But think about this, man.
Yeah.
I don't care who's listening, watching. I can tell you that any time somebody uses the word all and every, they're about to say something deep or completely stupid. All right. So all people, I tell you, there are moments in your life. There's been some fantastic adventures. There's been some fun that you've had that you've never had before. And it's been moments of excellence. And I guarantee you, most of you were about to crap your pants before. Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
Some of the most fun we ever had in our lives. We're like, and did it anyway. We were terrified and we loved it. You've got to learn to love fear, to turn anxiety into excitement, fear into passion.
See, Audie, you see why I love this man? Like, already, he's pretty much giving us some free counsel right now, and he's pretty expensive per hour. So let's just be very clear. And so we're getting some nuggets right now. But I love this, Greg, because it's about a mindset, right? I never even thought about recovery. I never thought about looking at the pressure and learning to love it, right? Because normally, Greg, when we associate about to crap on ourselves right before we jump out of a plane, but we're going to have like the time of our life, we know that there is going to be an enjoyment. I just got to get through it. But we never think about that when it comes to whatever work we're in, right? Whatever field we're operating in, right? When we get that moment of pressure, we don't associate that with goodness, right? And so I think that that's a really beautiful thing to reframe the idea of pressure and to love the pressure.
Look, we love.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant.
Who in their right mind, given the CGI, the digital, I mean, they can create images on the film now that look so real, it's overwhelming. Who in their right mind would go to an amusement park that just went up overnight? in a parking lot and get on a ride called the Demon Drop and have a 21-year-old who
come on Cedar Point,
and they say, let me put you in this coffin, in this capsule. They're gonna tie you in, they're gonna strap you in, and it's 10 stories high, and they're gonna hit a button and you're gonna plummet rapidly and you're going to be screaming and your stomach's going to be in your throat and you're plummeting to the bottom and you're hoping the hydraulic lifts work, and they work, and you get out and you say, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And we do it again.
Yes, that's exactly what we do.
We love excitement. We love fear. I'm telling you, the peak performers that I'm talking, I mean, I was anxious about coming to hang out with Mike Muse. No one will believe me because of the way I roll. But
Yeah.
I'm anxious, and I turned it into I get so excited about being on stage and being on Front Street, and maybe I could fail, and oh my God, how much fun is it? I love it.
I need to hear this today. Like, this is like a needed word. I want to go a little bit more, G Harden, into the recovery aspect and training. Like, what tips, would you give? Obviously, this is not a session, but so you need time with your clients. But in general, how does one train for the recovery, right?
Well, you teach people how to be so in tune with who they are. You hear popular phrase like mindfulness. That means being able to control your mind to the point where I'm in the now. I'm not overindulging in what happened yesterday and the mess ups and how good I used to be. Now, no, I'm not thinking about the past. PAST, previous action somewhere in time. Past. I let the past be the past. And instead of obsessing over the future, which hasn't happened yet, I'm training myself to be in this very moment and embracing that moment. That's how I begin to train myself to be able to control the controllable. I'm teaching you breathing techniques. Breathing is underrated. Breathing is underrated, and learning how to master your own. In order to control your breathing, you have to control your mind. In order to control your mind, you have to control your thoughts. Am I making sense?
You are.
So we begin to practice, train, and rehearse mind control. Self-mastery is the ultimate quest. So we're teaching you. Go ahead.
What I love about this recovery dynamic is because it's so true. Because when we have a failure or something doesn't go right, or we don't get that job, we don't get that promotion, we are stuck.
And we beat ourselves up.
We beat ourselves up. And the longer we stay stuck on that path, which you just described, it's just harder to advance yourself in your career, right?
Yes.
Like I'm literally thinking about the clients that you coach, right? I'm really thinking about like Tom Brady, right? I just think about that moment when it was a Super Bowl. It was the Patriots versus the Falcons, and it was fourth quarter, 2 minutes remaining. The Patriots were losing, and Tom, in like less than 2 minutes, somehow found it in him to find 3 touchdowns. I can't remember the exact things, but it was like found like 2 or 3 touchdowns in order to win the Super Bowl. And as you're thinking about the recovery, I'm just thinking about how he couldn't have lived in that past or what happened the previous 3 quarters in order to move so effectively to finish that game with 3 touchdowns in less than 2 minutes.
Look,
like that's the recovery you're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And the way
that's what I'm saying. It's brilliant. It's mind blowing to me right now.
Look, let's talk about Tom Brady. I want you to be real clear. Anyone that's listening, you don't have to like Tom Brady. You need to recognize what he is able and was able to do. This book is not about Michigan. This is about you. And let's be real clear. A great example is what you just described. It wasn't the fourth quarter you need to talk about, son. You need to take it to halftime. At halftime, it was 28-3 in the Super Bowl. This is not a regional contest. This is the 2 best teams in the world. 28-3. We're watching it because Tom, you're my guy, and I'm not going to turn it off. And, if anyone can pull it off, it might be you, but it's not probable. But it's not impossible. That's where we have to go. We have to understand sometimes we're in a situation where it's not probable that it's going to work, but it's not impossible. 28-3. Now, if I'm on the Falcons, it's over. Even though I'm a professional and I'm a high performance team, I've already subconsciously said there's no way. They had their foot on the pedal, boy, and the Falcons look better than any team you've ever seen in your life. They were crushing them. And then they went in that locker room and they started celebrating subconsciously. I'm sure they didn't do it intentionally or in front of the coach, but in their mind's eye, we got this. Now, Tom Brady, he's sitting with a towel over his head talking about, I'm going to get back in the game. I'm going to get back in the game. And all I'm going to do is give 100%. Win, lose, or draw. See, people hear the win, but they don't want to hear lose or draw. I need you to hear lose or draw. I want you to give 100% of the time, win, lose, or draw. That's a mindset. That's who you are. That's even if I'm losing, I'm not quitting. You understand? Now imagine, let's take it another step in terms of mindset. Tom Brady can't out-jump you. He can't outlift you. He can't outrun you. But you can't catch him. Why is that? Because you can measure how much weight he can lift. You can measure how fast he is, but you can't measure his mind or his heart.
Yeah.
So the ability to recover 2-3 interceptions, fumble, you got to let the past be the past. Short-term memory is what champions do. In any industry, we're talking about peak performance all across life. We're not talking about athletes. We're talking about the high performance individuals who we admire and respect, who bring it every day, all day. And how do they do it? Because when they give 100% of the time at everything, they even give 100% at relaxing. Hello, sorry to confuse some of you. They give 100% to family. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I confusing you? They give 100% at being able to train themselves to love, to care, to have compassion and concern for others, to be able to build people up instead of tearing them down. I'm sorry, I got excited. I apologize.
Do you see why I love this man? He's been this guy for me since college. I just feel so privileged when I think about this, that I have I can call you friend and someone who's been there for me, because what you're saying it's very simplistic, but brilliance is in the simple, right? Just to use an analogy, audience, and you heard what I mean by that. I learned that recently by watching a cooking show on Netflix recently. It was like a challenge, and they had to do something complicated, these bakers. And so these two bakers thought they would go the easy route with limited amount of time and just make like this vanilla white cake. But when the judges came, they said, we see why you chose the vanilla white cake, because it was easy to make. But unfortunately, it allows us to see all the imperfections and flaws. Actually, to execute something simple is actually more complicated, because you can see all the imperfection and flaws if it's not done right. And so for me, Greg, what you're just saying right now, it's simple, but it's brilliant because of the nuance of the simplicity that you have given it. And so I think, for me, this conversation is just so powerful.
Let's use the word simple, because the formulas are simple, but not easy.
That's what I'm saying. It's the white cake example. It's not easy. Right? The idea of recovery in the past, and I'm so glad we landed and used that Tom Brady, because I always talk about that game. But I guess I was never really thinking about this idea of how you have to put things in the past in short term in order to get up every day. Because I know I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of failing. I'm guilty of coming up short in certain things that I do. And I'm just beating myself up over and over and letting it replay. Because I'm I can't fail, right? But I just love how you just said, give it 100%, win, lose, or draw, right? And you're right. We don't put the lose or the draw in there because that's so counterintuitive.
Yes, yes. Think about this, man. How do you get people to understand recovery time? How do you get people to commit to being peak performers? You have to teach them that. You've heard this all your life. Oh, worrying. I don't know. Some of you are so good at worrying and so good at beating yourselves up. But let me make it simple once again. Beating yourself up doesn't work.
Yeah.
Worrying does not work. It's ineffective. See, that I need you sophisticated folks to stay with me right now. It's ineffective.
Yeah.
That makes it crystal clear to you that we're talking about. It is not going to change anything. So worrying can be a good waste of time. And beating
Win,
yourself
lose,
up.
and draw.
Beating yourself up. If your mission is to be negative, miserable, and depressed, by all means continue. But if that's not your mission, you cannot afford to wallow and get stuck in your own mind. Somebody asked me how I was doing today, and I told them I was too dumb to be depressed. I leave that for you geniuses who gonna overthink everything.
I already started thinking about it. But Greg, I can't keep you. I would love to keep you longer because you guys just have to come back. But along the lines of simplicity, you know, I want to go back to that analogy of Tom Brady and this next thing, because I do hear you talk a lot of times about, you know, practicing positive self-talk. And I've always looked at that as a throwaway, right? And so, but listening to what you just said with Tom Brady in the locker room with the towel over it, talk to me about what does Greg Harden mean when he says practice positive self-talk?
You've got to understand that we all talk to ourselves. And you've got to be able to be so sophisticated that, okay, let's take it all the way to the book. What is the book trying to teach you? To become, you know, we all hear the phrase, I want to be the best version of myself. How do you do that? You must commit without question or pause to become the world's greatest expert on one subject. You. That means you have to be able to figure out what's working and what's not working in your life. What's working in, oh my God, what attitudes, the ways that I think, and what behaviors, the ways that I act, are sabotaging my dream, and which ways do I think and act that are supporting me in becoming the best version of myself. You have to become so sophisticated that you know how you have everybody in your life can tell you what you need to do and what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Someone should get paid for how good they are at telling you that.
Yeah.
No change has been made in your life until you saw it, until you decided. Let me tell you, there's some amazing creatures on this planet, but I only know one creature that can decide to be, oh my God, they can decide that I'm not going to be the same today as I was yesterday. A human being. A human being is the only creature I know that can deliberately change.
Yeah.
They can see what they need to look at and decide, I like this in me, and I'm going to keep it and I'm going to grow it. And what I don't like, I can change.
That is a perfect way to end this conversation that could go on and on. So that just means you got to come back. Greg Harden, just thank you for everything. Thank you for being so generous with your mind today, and allowing me and my audience to go on this journey to help us unlock some things that has been stuck in a lot of us. Audience, please make sure you go get this book immediately. Stay Sane in an Insane World: How to Control the Controllables and Thrive by Greg Harden.
Could you show the book?
I'm going to show the book in the post, but you can show it right now, though.
Oh,
you have it with you? I don't have it. I don't have it next to me, which is a fail. There we go. We're gonna zoom in. We're gonna zoom in on this video. We're gonna zoom in on that. And we're gonna zoom in on that one. Greg Harden, I love you. Thank you for everything, man.
Man, I love life and I love having friends like you.
Yeah, likewise. I love you, man. Best of luck to everything, man. I'll see you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right, peace.